Imagine you are at a club, having a few drinks with friends. Right as the club music builds to the bass drop, the doors slam open and you are arrested for underage drinking. This is the reality for many college students. As a college student myself, I have seen the negative effects of underage drinking firsthand. However, as a person living in a place where the drinking age is lower than 21, I have also seen a sense of responsibility being formed around drinking. If you want to keep teens out of jail and avoid the many casualties involved with heavy drinking, this speech may explain an easy way to do so. Underage drinking is a huge problem in the US. To decrease its long term effects, lowering the drinking age is the best option, as it helps prevent binge drinking and allows for a culture of responsible drinking. Alcohol abuse is a huge issue in the US. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in their 2019 analysis, every day 28 people or one person every 52 minutes dies in a driving car crash. Even without getting behind the wheel, alcohol proved to be very dangerous for those who consume it in excess. The CDC reported in a 2015 survey that 6 people die of alcohol poisoning every day. This problem is magnified for underage drinking. In their 2019 compendium on U.S. alcohol consumption, the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism finds that 18.5% of people aged 12 to 20 report drinking alcohol in the past month, and 11.1% report binge drinking. And approximately 5,000 people under the age of 21 every year die as a result of drinking. Alcohol has become prevalent in society, which is why these casualties are so common. For adults, drinking is a social activity. But for teenagers, drinking is a way to go against authority. In 2014, Professor Engs from Indiana University explained that drinking by these youth is seen as an enticing forbidden fruit, a badge of rebellion against authority, and a symbol of adulthood. Most teenagers do it because they are told not to. The main problem with adolescent drinking comes in the form of binge drinking. Binge drinking is the activity of having a large number of drinks in a short amount of time, raising effective alcohol concentration in the bloodstream 0.08% after about 5 drinks. Galbachek from the Alcohol Rehab Guide reports in 2021 that roughly 80% of college students consume alcohol to some degree, and 50% of them engage in binge drinking. Dr. Friedman from the CDC explains that 90% of all the alcohol consumed by young people is consumed in binge drinking sessions. The reality is that the Greek letters of college life are lined with vodka and beer. The University of Rochester finds that 700,000 college students yearly report being assaulted by an inebriated student, and 100,000 of those are sexual assaults. Another problem related to underage drinking is the arrests. Liquor laws put 500,000 youth in jail in 2011. The U.S. Department of Justice explains in the 2002 Juvenile Justice Bulletin that arrests for liquor law violations were the second most common arrest charge in the 19-year-olds. The Ithacan furthers in 2014 that 66.1% of college students have purchased alcohol with false identification. Falsifying government documents is a felony that can lead to up to 20 years of imprisonment. 18-year-olds are judged like adults in a court of justice, so the courts have no reason to give them a lighter sentence. The problem isn't just about locking children up. Having a criminal record can ruin the rest of a teenager's life. Harvard Law Review writes in 2015 that juvenile incarceration makes a person significantly more likely to end up in the adult criminal justice system. Those who were incarcerated as juveniles were twice as likely to be locked up as adults. Groshek Law quotes a study from the University of South Carolina that shows that people with arrest records are less likely to graduate, live above the poverty line, become homeowners, and earn higher salaries. All of these reasons explain how dangerous drinking is for young students and how damaging a prison sentence could be for them. Thankfully, these issues can be solved by lowering the legal drinking age. First of all, binge drinking was caused by strict drinking laws in the first place. Kevin Sack from the New York Times in 2008 explains how binge drinking in college campuses arose as a cause of having to hide alcohol from authorities. By loading up on alcohol in a private setting, students are able to get drunk without having to worry about getting caught. Legalizing alcohol consumption in college students also allows them to seek help if they need it. Most schools have zero tolerance policies towards alcohol consumption. If a student is caught, they are expelled. This causes students to think twice before asking for help from medical services offered by the university. Harvard University, which has an amnesty policy against punishing students who ask for help with alcohol poisoning, has seen a severe decrease in deaths related to those causes. Other students are not as lucky. Also, the U.S. reports in 2020 that harsh punishments are not effective deterrents towards any type of crime. In fact, these harsh punishments have the opposite effect, encouraging offenders to repeat their offenses past their punishment. If a student's life is already torn because of a prison sentence, they find no reason to break the law again. No reason to not break the law again. Remember, students put in juvenile prisons are twice as likely to end up in their adult prisons later on in life. Lowering the drinking age means there is no need for fake IDs. Thus, students will not have to put their life on the line to participate in a common social costume. Finally, lowering the drinking age instills the value of responsible consumption at a lower age. Safe experimentation allows young adults to understand their limits without having to binge drink in private. Those college students will not be persecuted for their consumption, so they can seek help if they encounter any life-threatening issues. Plus, they will drink in secure bars and areas designed for safe student recreation. Learning alcohol responsibility at a later age could be disastrous. Shad Kabalantugan, in their thesis for UC Davis, finds that students with higher GPAs reported consuming less alcohol than students who reported lower GPAs. Thus, the quality of their education is worse, which is also true for the work done by a binge-drinking adult. Lowering strict drinking laws would also remove the authority that some teens feel they need to go against. This would lead to a normalization of the consumption of alcohol, which in turn means that college drinking will become a social activity. Vindictive drinking tends to be more intense and frequent than social drinking. When comparing European countries that have a lower drinking age than the US, while Europe does have higher consumption rates than the US, they have substantially less binge drinking rates. MIC News explains that drinking in moderation is an important part of European culture. In fact, until recently, binge drinking as a concept was overwhelmingly absent from their culture. While all of these reasons explain why lowering the drinking age to 18 would be beneficial, some of you may have some reservations about this policy change, so let's discuss them. You're right in believing that underage drinking will actually increase. However, underage drinking is already strikingly high in the status quo. Plus, remember that the activity will become much safer and less dependent on binging, so the negative effects of having young adults drink will pale in comparison to the negative effects we are seeing nowadays. There are better ways to keep the youth out of trouble. We as adults must practice a culture of restricting alcohol usage, not prohibiting them completely. Another common reservation about this policy change is that the drinking impairs human development. However, there is no actual long-term evidence on this fact. Kaisner and Yarnoff from the National Bureau of Economic Research, despite being advocates for strict drinking laws, agree that evidence on the long-term effects of alcohol consumption in college students is inconclusive and relies on unproven studies. Furthermore, every other country in the world has a legal drinking age of 18 or lower and features fully functional adults. Much of the evidence talks about binge drinking, which arose because of those strict drinking laws. To avoid damage in our youth's brains, we need to eliminate the need to drink in excess. The final and strongest argument against lowering the drinking age deals with drunk driving accidents. In the US in the 80s, the minimum drinking age was 18. In 1987, the US Federal Congress pushed the bill to change the legal drinking age to 21, which had the effects of decreasing car accidents nationwide. There are two huge holes in this argument. The first problem is that this measure came at the same time as many other safety measures that dealt with safety on the roads. Cameras to stop driving red lights, commercials to inspire wearing seatbelts, breathalyzers to measure the amount of alcohol in the bloodstream, cars that could withstand tough accidents, better medical technology to treat these patients, and safer highways were all put in place to decrease car crashes. Thus, this change in the legal drinking age had little influence on the number of car accidents. Miller and Tettelbaum from Harvard and Yale found in 2007 that the car crash decline began in 1969, when all those measures started taking place, not in 1987, which is when the legal drinking age was increased. The other problem with this argument is that the drunk driving simply shifted from an 18 to 21-year-old range to a 21 to 24-year-old range, according to Ashton Levy from the Cato Institute. This suggests that the cause of drink driving accidents is a lack of moderation in drinking, not drinking itself, which directly aligns with the argument presented about instilling responsibility by allowing usage at a reasonable age. With all these measures in place to discourage drunk driving, people will avoid these arguments far more than they did in the 60s. Overall, the legal drinking age set in place in the US that is meant to discourage the youth from drinking has the opposite effect. Despite all the regulations that can be done, college students are still going to get drunk. All of these regulations cause these teenagers to drink in private places to go against what authority tells them. Let's let college students dance to the beat drop from the song in the club without fear of being locked away and having their life ruined. By treating them like adults, they will start behaving responsibly and taking care of themselves. Thank you.